So in this video, I'll show you how to install additional storage into your PS5. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. The first and easiest way is to plug in an external drive into your USB port. Now, like I said, it's the easiest way, but it's the crappy way because it gets you slow speeds. Now, the better way, and the way I'm going to show you in this video, is to install an M.2 SSD, which I have a 1TB M.2 SSD here from Gigabyte, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. But basically, it's still pretty easy. You just have to slide off the bottom cover, unscrew a few screws, and screw them back in, and install the SSD, and it gets you speeds that are actually just as fast as the internal SSD in the PS5, if not faster. So there's only a few things you need to do this. First of all, you obviously need a PS5. You can have the digital or a disc version. As you can see, I have the disc version, so that's what I'll be showing you, but it's pretty much the exact same thing for the digital version. You'll also need a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm not sure exactly what size, but it's not too hard to figure out once you open it up. And then you'll also need an M.2 SSD. I have one from Gigabyte, and I'll talk about that more later. I'll throw a link down in the description for this one. And so what you want to consider when you're buying an M.2 SSD is Sony actually has a few requirements that you have to follow to make sure it's compatible with your PS5. So your first requirement is that the SSD has to fit in the slot that Sony provides you, which this one does, and I'll show you once we open it up. It'll be pretty clear. You also need to make sure that your read speeds on your SSD are at least 5,500 megabytes per second. And then your SSD has to be between 250 gigabytes and 2 terabytes. The one I have here is 1 terabyte. So last but not least, you also have to have some sort of heat dissipation attached to your SSD. Now the cool thing about the Gigabyte one I have here is it's already attached. As you can see, it's got a heatsink attached to it from factory. And that's actually not how all of them come. You can buy them without the heatsink, and then you have to put a heatsink on. So I definitely would recommend avoiding that route since that's just more difficult for you. And so just a few more tech specs about this SSD. It's a 1TB Aorus Gen 4 7000S SSD made by Gigabyte. And like I said, for having 1TB and having a built-in heatsink, it's actually one of the more reasonable priced SSDs in the market right now for the PS5. And it actually has sequential read and write speeds of up to 7,000 megabytes per second and 6,850 megabytes per second respectively. So this spec easily meets Sony's read requirement, so you don't have to worry about that. And like I mentioned, the drive already has heat dissipation attached to it, which specifically is a 7mm aluminum heatsink and double-sided heat spreader that improves the thermal transfer from heating sources. And for all of you out there that really want to get into the nitty-gritty, it uses a Micron B27B 3D TLC NAND flash memory for a 1200 megatransfers per second transfer rate. So all of this is to say that if you're looking to purchase an M.2 SSD for your PS5, this Gigabyte one is a really good choice, and it comes in at a pretty good price point. So now that you know about the SSD and you have everything you need, let's go ahead and open up the PS5 and actually do the install. So first of all, you're going to want to turn your PS5 so that basically the top is down, and I'm going to actually flip it around here, and I'll try to give you a better angle as well so you can see this. But basically in my orientation, you got the front over here and the back's on this side. What you want to do is lift up the back corner a little bit, just gently, and then you want to push it out this way, and it just pops off like so. It's pretty easy to do. I know at first, the first time you do it, it's going to feel like you're breaking something, but you're not. Just be gentle. You just lift up this side pretty gently and then push it, and it'll come off. So now that we had the bottom cover off, I'll show you where the M.2 SSD goes. So basically it goes in this slot right here, this bay. So let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. All right, so here's this bay, and as you can see, you got one screw right here. So you're going to start by taking this screw out with your Phillips head screwdriver. All right, so pop the screw out, and as you can see, it's one of the cool Sony screws that they use in their hard drive bays, where it's got the X, O, triangle, and square. Pretty neat. I think they've had that on the PS3 and PS4. And you basically just slide the cover off. And here's where your SSD goes. So as you can see, this is my SSD from Gigabyte. You got the contacts over here, and that's where your contacts plug in down here. Basically, you'll just put it in and slide it in. But there's actually one other thing to it. So you got a screw down here and a spacer. You probably can't see the spacer from here, but I'll show you a picture. So first thing you want to do is take that screw and spacer out. All right, so there's your screw, and there's your spacer. But basically, depending on the size of your SSD, depends where you put the spacer and the screw. So as you can see, let's just line mine up real quick. And as you can see, it goes up to that screw right there. So what you're going to want to do is first put the spacer in at the 80 mark. So basically the spacer just sits in there like so. As you can see, the spacer is popping out a little bit. The other ones are just flat. That'll help you basically screw your screw to the right spot without over tightening it. So then once you get your spacer in there, you want to take your SSD, kind of put it to the left hand side a little bit and just slide it in there like so. You're going to have to wiggle it around a little bit to get it to fit in. And then you go ahead and push it in. Like so, pops into place, and now you can see the spacer lines up perfectly with the little bracket on the SSD. So now you take your screw you took out and drop it into that little bracket and just screw it down. So you don't want to use any power tools here, just tighten it up with your screwdriver. And as you can see, this thing is not moving anymore. It's nice and tight down there. And so now you can put your cover back on. And then you'll take your screw and put that back in the left-hand side, like so. And then of course, last but not least, we'll put our cover back on. So now we'll take our cover, make sure the front is to the front and the back is to the back. You want to put it to the right a little bit until it just kind of drops into place, and then slowly push it to the left, and it should basically click into place, right, like so, and it pops. It might sound like you broke something, but you didn't. You should be good. I mean, I guess you could always break something, but the likelihood of you breaking something is extremely slim as long as you're gentle with it. So now that you've successfully installed the SSD, let's go over to the PS5 and basically log in and do a couple more things. So now that you've installed your M.2 SSD and you booted up your PS5, you'll be greeted with this screen that says to use your M.2 SSD, you need to reformat it. So basically, if you've been using your M.2 SSD in like a PC or something, make sure you have all your data pulled off of there because you can't, get it back. So it gives you two options: don't format and turn off PS5. So basically, you have to turn off your PS5 and not use the M.2. And second is to format the M.2 SSD. So let's go ahead and do that. And as you can see, it's a quick drive, so it's super quick to format. So once you format your drive, it'll give you this read speed screen. So ours is 5,800 megabytes per second. Now this drive is rated up to 7,000, so you're not going to see 7,000 all the time. I've reformatted this a few times and seen different speeds. I've seen like 5,800, 6,000, 5,600. As long as it's over 5,500, you're fine. And I've seen people online with the same drive get like 6,500. So basically, it's going to vary. And I'm not sure exactly how Sony does their read speeds here, but as long as you're over 5,500, you're fine. So basically, we formatted it now. It'll take us back home. And as you can see, it's pretty quick. I'm not fast forwarding this at all. It just boots straight up. And we'll go ahead and boot up as well. And then I'll show you a few features you can use with this drive now. So basically, the main feature is you can now install games onto your M.2 SSD. Once we go over to settings, we'll go to storage. And so now you can see console storage, M.2 SSD storage, and USB extended storage. Don't mind the data corruption in the right-hand corner. That gives me that. It's been giving me that for years. So USB extended storage is basically if you plug in a external hard drive. M.2 storage is what we have now, and console storage is pretty self-explanatory. So what we're going to do now is transfer a game over. So one of the more recent games I've been playing is, what did I play recently? Planet Coaster. Tried this out. So basically click select items to move. We'll click on Planet Coaster, go to move, and it'll transfer our 13 gigs. And watch how fast this is. This is 13 gig. Oh, actually 12 gigabytes, but still. It took 10 seconds, actually less than 10 seconds, to transfer that entire 12 gigs to the M.2 SSD. So if you wanted to transfer your entire PS5 hard drive to the M.2 SSD, it's going to not take very long at all, like a few minutes probably. Let's go ahead and transfer over Ratchet and Clank as well, which is 30 gigs, and still this is going to take like 30 seconds maybe. Yeah, there we go. 23, 25, 22. As you can see, it's super fast. So let me show you one more feature. So if you go back to storage, go to installation location, you can change where you automatically store or install your games to. So like you can say PS4 games to console storage, PS5 games to M.2 SSD storage, which is probably a good choice because your M.2 should read a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and we're going to do a quick test and see how fast we can boot up Ratchet and Clank on the M.2 versus the internal drive. So I have the Ratchet and Clank disk in, and like you saw, we already transferred this to our M.2 storage. So we're going to do a little speed test and see how fast this boots up and see if it's actually faster than the internal drive. So 3, 2, 1. So there we go. Press X to start. So pretty fast, and theoretically this should be a bit faster than the SSD in the PS5. So now we'll go back, cancel out of this game. We'll go to our storage again, go to M.2 SSD, click on games and apps, and now we're going to transfer this to our PS5 storage. So there we go. And the transfers from M.2 to your internal PS5 SSD are a bit slower. I'm assuming that's because the internal PS5 SSD has slower write times than the M.2 SSD. Not 100% sure on that, but that's what I think. So now we're transferred over to console storage. Let's go ahead and go back to the main screen. And so let's try to boot up Ratchet and Clank one more time and see what the speeds are. So 3, 2, 1. Alright, so now we're on the Ratchet and Clank main screen, And honestly, right off the bat, I'm not sure which one is faster because I wasn't timing it myself. I'll put timing in post-production, but I'm assuming they're pretty dang close. But even if your M.2 storage is not faster than the internal storage, at least you know it's about the same. So there you go, guys. That's how you install your M.2 SSD on your PS5. So I hope this helped you guys out. If it did, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know a comment down below if you have any questions. And thanks for watching, guys.